the game is golf, and that's the name of the game.
Hi, I'm golf professional Toby Lyons, and I will be explaining the rules of the sand trap and also how do we tell the texture of sand. First, let me go with the texture of sand. Now, the easiest and most simple way of telling the texture of sand when you arrive in a sand trap is by the naked eye. And as you can see here, we have some white sand, we have some darker sand. Now, the white sand is dry, the darker sand is a little wet. And that's undoubtedly caused from last night or an early morning sprinkle that the greenskeeper did last night or this morning to water down the greens. And so some of the water came into the trap. So the number one way of doing it is by the naked eye. Another way is when you get your stance in a sand trap. You know you want to get a level stance. And so you can move out of your stance and you can see here that there is some darkness underneath where the water did go last night or this morning, but it's dry on top, so we know that the sand is a little wetter underneath than on top. So this will more or less detect the type of shot you're going to play out of a sand trap. But number one, by the naked eye, is telling how the texture of sand is. If it's coarse or fine, wet or dry. Now let me get into the rules of a sand trap. Now as you can see here, I have a lot of debris in a sand trap. I'm sure you'll never come in contact with this much particles in a sand trap, but occasionally you do run into one or two particles that could have been blown in there or somebody dropped in there. What can we take out of a sand trap? The most easiest way of what we can take out of a sand trap is by man-made. Anything that's man-made can be relieved from the sand in you making your shot to the green. Now as we see here, I have some beer cans, containers, and paper, cigar butts, cigarette butts. They're all man-made. So should your ball or stance come in contact with this, you can pick that up and relieve it out of your position to swing at the ball. So, but here we have some moss. We have a pom-pom here. And also back north you have other things such as leaves and that. They're not man-made. So they must be left in the trap so that you must play the ball wherever the ball lay. So anything that's man-made can be removed from your position of hitting the golf ball. Now let me get into some of the other rules too here. Now, this ball was driven from back there up against the lip of this trap. It's buried in there. Now there's no way can that ball be gotten out of this position with a golf club. So what you will do, the easiest thing to do, not stand there and try to hammer it out, use up a lot of shots. Why don't you invoke the unplayable lie? So the unplayable lie is to pick the ball up, come back 2 clubs length, and drop the ball over your shoulder, then play it out. Now you have one other option. You could go all the way back from where you hit that ball and play it over, but you still incur a 1-stroke penalty. A 1-stroke penalty for an unplayable lie. Now, also we've driven the ball from back there into this real fluffy sand here. We can't see it. So we can take our hands and go through here and look for, there, I just touched the ball. I'm allowed to see the top of that ball. I do not want to identify it because the rule states you do not have to identify a ball in a hazard. There is no penalty for hitting this ball out of the trap if it were not your ball. So you can take and hit that out with no penalty by taking and moving the sand off to let you see the ball. If it were leaves, if you were back north with leaves, you could do the same thing. Now, let me go with the casual water. A lot of times you run into casual water when you've had a lot of rain overnight. I'm going to assume the front part of this trap is full of water, and our ball lay here. Now I can pick that ball up, Drop it back here 2 clubs length over my shoulder and play it out with no penalty. But there's no penalty when you move backwards. But let's assume that this part of the trap is full of water and this is dry. Now my only alternative is to pick the ball up, take it to the nearest point of relief, which would be out here, drop it over my shoulder, drop it over my shoulder with a 1-shot penalty. You have a 1-shot penalty in doing this because you can never move a ball forward. So those are the rules of the sand trap and also how to tell the texture of sand. And I'm sure if you remember this, and the next time that you play a round of golf, you could take and save yourself a couple of shots in a round of golf. I thank you.
I'm Harry Offutt, a golf professional, here this afternoon to talk to you about terror in the sand. Most of you, as you approach a green, are deadly afraid of knocking the ball offline and knocking it in the sand trap because you do not have enough experience to hit the easiest shot in golf. The manufacturer has made a club especially for you to help you get out of the sand trap without any effort at all. It has a heavy flange on the bottom of it. It's heavier than any other club in your bag. It has more loft this way to throw the ball higher in the air. And if you will maintain a steady pull with your left side all the way to the top, you'll find that the club will go under the ball, throwing sand and ball out without ever touching the ball. On a normal shot, it comes out high and drops softly. I will try to demonstrate some of these shots for you and show you that by keeping your weight all on your left foot, by pulling down with your left hand and keeping the club cocked with your right hand in this manner all the way through the ball, the club will throw the ball up on the green and you will be safely out of what you have been afraid of most of your life. It comes out nice and high, drops in there nice and soft. Doesn't require any muscle, just continuous pressure from your left side. Now they're not always sitting up like that. Sometimes we get them in a footprint and you fuss because somebody didn't break the trap or fix the footprint. This is much the same shot. You close the blade up so that it's more upright this way instead of open this way, and try to hit right down at the base of the ball and drive it into the sand here in front of it. You'll find it'll come out just as easily as the other shot if you keep your pressure moving from your left side. No problem at all. Now when one is buried so you can't even see it, you close it up a little bit more, make a more directly down blow, striking fairly close. The ball is going to come out running with top spin, and it's going to run very, very rapidly. Lean forwards so that all your weight is from the left side. Pull it down into the ball. Now it'll run when it gets out instead of drop soft like the others did. I'll hit one more like that, burying my foot, keep it balanced. You can see the ball better than I can. All with your left side, face closed, and watch it run when it comes out. Now soft sand, very soft sand, requires a little bit more pressure from this side because it's going to grab the club as it comes through. In this instance, I'm going to get my feet wiggled down so that I don't lose my balance, open the face wider so the flange is going to slide in under the ball, throwing it up in the air. Lean forward. It'll come down nice and soft without much run. Straight down, straight through. Now, a lot of you don't have much sand. You get what we call a hard pan lie. These I play just exactly as though I was on the fairway. It's a chip shot. Your hands are well ahead of the ball. You just hit it right down on with your hands ahead, and it pops right out. Played with a sand wedge just like the other shot. You can play that with a 9 or an 8 iron if you want more run. I hope that this demonstration has shown you how to reduce your strokes around the green. The name of the game is score, and if you'll practice, you'll find that this will all come easy, and you'll learn to pull your arm down at the speed necessary to knock at the distance you want it to go.
In and out of the sand. You too can hit good bunker shots if you follow 2 principles. 1, your choice of clubs, and 2, thinking of the champagne theory. Now, what does the champagne glass have to do with the sand? Well, I'll get into that in just a moment, but first I'd like to talk about the sand wedge. This sand wedge has a high area back in here which is called the flange. And if I set it on the palm of my hand, you'll notice that the leading edge, this area right in here, is off of my palm. Now this club is designed for bouncing and skimming through the sand, just like this. This is what we want to do in the bunker shot, to skim the club through the sand. A pitching wedge, on the other hand, if I set it on the palm of my hand, its leading edge is right flush up against the palm. And this club, its design is to dig. And this is going to dig too deeply into the sand. You're going to bury the club, and I don't think you're going to get too much distance out of it. So if you've been using a pitching wedge in the sand, you might think about purchasing a sand wedge. And getting into that champagne, what we want to do in a basic bunker shot is to have the club face remain open through the hitting area. And we're talking about this area from here right through the ball here. And this is where we want to keep this champagne in this glass, right through this area. We're not concerned with the backswing or the follow through. Now, if we can keep the champagne in that glass, like so, then we're going to be a real good bunker player. What we want to avoid in this trap shot is a turning or rolling of the wrists, and if we do that, then the champagne's going to fall out. So we want to keep the face of this club open, keeping the champagne right in that glass. If we roll our wrists, champagne's going to fall out, and you're going to hit the ball right into the lip of the bunker. So we want to keep the champagne in the glass. Now, the fundamentals of the bunker shot to follow are these. First of all, we have to set up our target line. Body line would be parallel to that. Now, fundamentally, we want to have an open stance, which is drawing our left foot back from the line, our left knee, left hip, and left shoulder. Now, what this does, it makes us cut across our target line, just like this. Now, with the addition of wrists and wrist release, this allows us to hit behind the ball. The ball will come up very high, and when it lands on the green, it'll settle real nice and soft. So you want to open the stance all the way up with the body position, swing across your line, have some wrist action, hit behind the ball, think of that champagne theory, and then follow through. Keep that champagne in that glass. Okay, now I'd like to call in Kathy and Carl to hit a few bunker shots for me here. Could you come in and hit one, Kathy, for me? Now think of the champagne theory. Set yourself open. Atta girl. All right, hit the sand behind the ball, and the ball would have rose up a little bit better for you. Okay, you want to hit another one, Kath?
Sure.
Okay. Atta girl. That's all right. Great. Okay. Carl, let's try one here. Think of keeping that face in an open position as you swing the club through the sand. Make sure you follow through. All right. Hit the sand a little bit behind the ball. Go a couple inches. Atta boy. Excellent, Carl. Terrific. Great. Real good. Now remember, for the basic bunker shot, now this is the one when the ball is sitting up nicely on the sand. Think of your railroad track. Here's your target line. Here's your foot line. You're going to open the stance, the left knee, left hip, and the shoulder. This forces you to swing across your line. The addition of wrists will make you hit behind the ball. And most importantly, think of that champagne theory, and let's get that ball on the green. Now remember, practice, not when you get on in the golf course by itself, but practice on the when you go out to the range. And remember, think of that champagne theory. This is Penny Zavickas. Use your sand wedge a proper way, and you'll be out of the sand traps the easy way.
Hi, I'm professional Dick Lawrence, and today I'd like to talk to you about some of your priorities in hitting a sand shot. In executing a sand shot, most of us are only knowledgeable about one shot, and that is the blast, or the hit and hope, as some of us refer to it as. In using this kind of shot, we're going to select our sand wedge. The sand wedge is a club that is especially designed for this kind of shot because it has a round bottom. The reason it has a round bottom is because as it enters the sand, it takes a very shallow divot. Our pitching wedge, on the other hand, has a sharp bottom, which causes the club to simply enter the sand and dig down in. Well, in the sand, we don't want this, because when I get ready to hit this blast shot, I'm going to have to do a few different things. First of all, I can't hit the golf ball first. I have to hit a spot about 2 inches behind the golf ball. Now, I've drawn a line, but don't do that unless you're practicing, because it's illegal and a hazard. I'm going to focus my attention 2 inches behind the golf ball, and I'm going to hold my club over that spot, because this is where I want my club to enter, and from this point I want that shallow divot to cut the ball out from under the sand. I'm going to open my stance, dropping my left foot behind my right, putting my weight left, and I'm going to go ahead, hit my spot, and follow through, and this will give me a good blast. Now, in selecting the blast shot, I have to study my lie. Here, a portion of the ball is beneath the surface of the sand. I have a little bit of lip to carry the ball over, so I have to pop the ball up and land it softly on the green. I'll settle into the sand, I'll look at my spot behind the golf ball, and prepare to execute it. Hitting, popping the ball out with very little bit of overspin. Again, make sure that we look at the spot, set up with our weight left, hit your spot, and the ball will come out nicely. With a very soft bit of overspin. Again, the blast is a very risky shot, so approach it with confidence, look at the spot, and simply cut the sand from under the ball, and you'll get out. A very good shot. Now, a better percentage shot to play in a bunker is the chip shot. Here, you can select any club up to your 5-iron, and the stroke will be modified somewhat. Here, I'm going to go into my chip stroke method. I'm going to use firm wrists. I'm not going to permit my wrist to hinge in the backswing or on my follow-through. I'm going to lock my wrist, take the club straight back, straight through, keeping the narrow stance. I want to change one thing, though. I want to hit my golf ball first. I have to hit the ball first, otherwise the sand would leave me in the bunker. If I have very little lip and a good lie, I can play my chip shot. Today I've selected the 8-iron. I'll get a low shot with a little bit of roll. Hands forward, firm wrists. As it runs considerably. runs right through there, just like you're chipping from the fairway. A very good, easy shot to get out of the bunker with. Hitting your golf ball first with firm wrist, straight back, straight through, picking the golf ball, making sure we escape our trouble every time. Now, the safest shot that we could ever try to execute in a bunker is selecting the putter. The putter, however, must be used in situations where the lie will let you. Here I have a very good lie, and I have no trouble in front. The sand is blown up against the bank, and it looks as if I could roll the ball through there quite confidently. I'm going to modify my stroke, position the ball back of center, in the middle of my stance, moving my hands slightly forward to ensure the fact that my hands lead as I go through. I'm going to putt for about 12 inches past the cup to make sure I get it to the hole. A very smooth rolling shot, and you can become extremely accurate, and you can certainly get it out every time with this stroke method. Rolls very smooth, just as if we were putting from the green. Now, this is Dick Lawrence reminding you your priorities in the bunker. Number 1, putt. It's the safest way. Number 2, chip. You hit your ball first with firm wrist and you'll get out every time. And number 3, blast last, because that's the most risky type of shot you could ever try to use in the bunker. Good golfing to you.
Hello, I'm golf professional Neal Doyle. Today I'd like to show you the flippy wrist sand shot and the pre-cock sand shot, and why we have the two different types of sand shots and who uses them. The flippy wrist sand shot is used primarily by the good players, the people who have good use of their hands and arms and good coordination. I'd like to demonstrate the flippy wrist shot first and show you how that we set up and go into this shot. First of all, the weight must be slightly heavy on your left foot. The ball is played basically in the center of your stance. You must have an open stance and a slightly open club face. The club is taken back rather abruptly in the backswing with the hands and the wrist picking the club upright, fast like this. Let me demonstrate this again. The backswing, it's picked up abruptly with the wrist cocking fairly fast. This is where we get the flippiness in it. Again, the wrist cocking fast and taking it up this way. To bring it down, you must turn the club under and slide the club through with the hands facing up. The back of your left wrist must be facing the sky. You never want the club to turn over. Let the toe pass through. Now, when you're teaching a beginning player this is where I think we run into trouble with the beginning player trying to use the flippy wrist. He will take the club back properly, picking it up like this, but then he starts to hammer like he's driving a nail into a piece of wood. As he starts down, he gets a sudden urge to get a burst of speed to help this club go through the sand, and when this happens, he makes this mistake. He's looking about 2 inches behind the ball, but as he starts down, he gets this urge to push the club through, and he hits behind the ball 5 to 6 inches, leaving the ball in the sand trap. His toe goes into the sand first, digging under the ball, and just leaves it right there in the sand. This is an improper motion. What happens as the club starts down, his right hand gets too active, and it overextends the right elbow too soon, causing him to strike the sand 4 or 5 inches behind the ball. This is definitely going to make the toe of the club roll over, and the toe is going to strike the sand first, and this is like a knife. It digs down under the ball and just leaves the ball sitting in the trap. This is a mistake that a beginning player will make. The good player will know to keep the hands leading all the time. The back of the left hand will pull the club right on through to the sand, into the shot, and finish. The poor player is just like he's pounding the sand all the time. He's increasing the club head speed. Now, if I could do something in golf to help you eliminate some of this movement, it stands to reason that would be a little better shot. So we try to come up with the idea of the pre-cock position. What is pre-cocking? Pre-cocking is merely setting up in the same position using the old stick Y, except we're going to use a little wrist break here, but we're going to do it predetermined. We're going to do it beforehand. We're going to set the hands over by the left knee, and as you can see, I've sort of broken the tail off of this Y position. Pre-cocking again is setting the hands forward in this fashion. One more time, just pre-cocking my hands. Now I'm set up to swing the club. From this position, it's more or less a shoulder and forearm movement. Back and through. The wrists are not involved anymore. The moment I pre-cock my hands, I also cock and lock my wrists. They're cocked and locked in this fashion, where I can take it back with my forearm and shoulder back and through without ever letting the hands turn over, and I won't get this sudden burst of speed at the bottom to try to rush the ball through the sand. This is an improper motion. The club is swung very rhythmically, back and through. I'd like to demonstrate a shot here in the pre-cock position. As you see, you must have a high finish when you hit this shot. Pre-cocking. Hands forward to the ball, weight heavy on the left foot, and keep it right there. Finish high. Make sure you get out of the sand. That's the primary result, is to get out of the sand trap. Do not leave it in the trap and have to take 2 shots to get out. Very smooth and rhythmical. Nothing hurried about this shot. The difference in the 2 swings now, flippy wrist, flipping it up like this and swinging through, and pre-cock is presetting the hands and swinging the club back and through. This is known as a percentage shot. This is Neal Doyle saying, hit with the percentage shot and watch the ball come out, and you'll have a smiling face.
The name of the game is golf.